Berm is back to do some stonks. He's got a lot of investment tips cooked up for you on a Wednesday version of the Podcast Daily. That's Bill Landis. I'm Austin Ward. And we've got a full month now, 4 games to evaluate the portfolio. Ups, downs, holds, sells. All of those things are happening in this very real game that we play, but we haven't played it with Berm in a while.
Yeah.
So let's...
And you know one name I have not heard? As you guys have stolen my thunder?
I don't
What's
know.
that?
Let's see. Where is it?
Carnell.
The Colonel.
the
Oh,
Colonel.
yeah. The Colonel's
We
playing
haven't-
really well. I'm looking something
Carnell
up. Don't mind me.
Tate has played extremely
Your portfolio.
well.
Yeah.
He's been extremely reliable and consistent. And this isn't a BP show, but like, I think this is maybe the weekend where you see him be the go-to guy in a way that he hasn't been this year. But what
It
I
was
like,
early on Saturday.
what I like about Carnell and what he's doing is that, like, I'm feeling the Julian Fleming blocker on the edge type. And Julian Fleming, for whatever shortcomings he had in the passing game, was a very physical, very capable run blocker for Ohio State on the edge, and he's done a great job. And I think that it's actually like seeping through the rest of the wide receiver group, because obviously we heard Ryan Day talk about Emeka Ibuka on Tuesday and the blocks he had. Jeremiah Smith is really, really good at it for being a freshman. It's just Carnell. It's funny because during his recruitment, there was so much conversation about him as this diva and this like look at me type wide receiver, and he's become the absolute like quintessential team guy.
He's a dog. That's
Why-
what he is.
Why do you think that is, Berm? Because like, I don't think a 4 to 5 star recruit at wide receiver can help that they're going to be in NIL conversations.
Because, I mean, it was just repeated visits to places, and people just see that, and
He likes to see the country.
everyone loves to go to Knoxville over and over and over. He'd probably be having a pretty good career were he playing at Tennessee. So I don't think he was.
Well,
looking
Knoxville's
at-
great for 2 days and to take some money home with you.
Right, he wasn't having bad options. That's what I'm saying. But he's gotten here, and he was very impressive as a freshman. Played, more snaps as a wide receiver freshman than any of the Buckeyes' great receivers in the last 15 years, other than
Garrett was the only one.
Jeremiah Smith. I mean, so like now you're starting to see Will Howard get comfortable with him, and I think as a quarterback, it's got to be kind of weird to be like, okay, I've got great chemistry with this guy. Now I got great chemistry with these 2 guys. Now I got great chemistry with all 3. Like,
It's like speed dating.
yeah, but it's like speed dating, but also then marrying each person.
Love is blind.
Yeah, that's exactly what that's
Some states you can do that.
that's the premise of Love Is Blind.
Mixed with the Real Housewives of Provo.
Yeah.
So you're buying stock in Carnell Tate?
Carnell Tate
Okay.
is someone that is just not being talked about enough by
Okay.
Ohio State fans
I
or
agree.
the media.
Yeah.
Bill and I have not mentioned him in the previous
know.
few stonk watches.
I know.
Good pick by you.
Thank you.
This is a very good pick. I like that. Like I love when an Ohio State receiver like throws a nasty block and then like they're very intentional about getting that guy the ball.
Yeah.
Not so long after that. Like,
You gotta
it's-
earn it.
You got to earn it. It's cool. I like it. And then Brian Hartline gets fired up about it. It's great.
Yeah.
It's my turn.
Yeah. Wide receiver blocking. You just did it.
Wide receiver blocking. Is there any Caleb Downs available?
Yes.
Okay,
He's been activated
He's
now.
been activated. I was trying to look
That's a
up.
funny term.
But
right?
I was looking up on my in the Naked Gun movie when Reggie Jackson's a sleeper cell who has to kill the Queen of England. I was trying to think of how they activated him to see what the thing that they said and whether or not they do that with Caleb Downs when they decide they want to use him to be more aggressive. But I couldn't find what it was. Yeah, it was a funny way. It was a funny way to talk about the way that Caleb.
It was they sang. He was voice programmed.
Well, was it from the national anthem?
Yeah.
Is that what it was from Enrico Palazzo?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just imagine going, you know what we're going to do after the first 4 games? We're going to use our best defensive player now.
Well, I don't think that's what he meant because
That's what it sounded like.
his addendum to that was when we play him back, he's so good positionally and understanding route concepts that teams can't throw the ball down the field.
But now people know the secret. He's not activated those games.
Yeah, if he's back, he's
now
not
throw it over his
activated.
head.
Well, on Saturday night, Michigan State did the national anthem before Ohio State came out on the field.
true. Oh.
I think if he hears it, which he has for all the games at home,
Yeah.
it deactivates him.
Oh,
so he needs
it's
to
an inverse.
stay.
It's an inverse Reggie
He
Jackson.
needs to stay in the locker room.
Caleb
Got
Downs
it.
is the inverse Reggie Jackson.
Okay.
We've really
I
got
hope
there.
people have seen the movie that we're referencing.
It's a Naked Gun 33 and a half.
I really merged it though with something that actually did happen in the first 4
That's
games.
interesting. I think we've nailed it. Whatever it was that activated Caleb Downs, I think that will continue because it's pretty clear to me that the best version of Ohio State's defense is with Caleb Downs attacking downfield and being a menace at the line of scrimmage. And like his first game was fine. Like, I know he missed some tackles and maybe there were some nerves there. I don't know, but I think he's been excellent since that first game against Akron, and he's coming off of his best game so far against Michigan State. We've talked about how important tackling is going to be in this game against Iowa. So I think you're going to continue to see a gradual build up there. And if there was anybody who was like, I don't know, Caleb Downs, like, why are you guys talking about him so much? He doesn't look all that good. Like, I think you reminded us last week, like, he is very good. I think Alabama reminded us last week that, boy, they could use a safety back there to stop some pass plays. He was always going to be a major piece of this defense, and I think maybe some people might have backed off that idea or cooled on that idea based off the first game. When, to me, it's still very evident. So if there's anything available for me to get stock-wise in that idea, I'll very much take some.
He was awesome on Saturday.
Yeah.
And I think that was the version that we all expected to see, whether that's activated, not activated, scheme, comfort. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. If that's what we're about to see from him moving forward, that's going to be a problem.
It's an expensive stock, but you can still buy some.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll spend that money.
Yeah, it's a worthwhile investment. Apple could still go up.
That's right. Just needs to kill the queen.
He's been here 4 years, but I still would like to dabble in some also expensive Travion Henderson, mostly the blitz pickup stuff. There's never been a point in Travion's career where I'm like, you know what? He's afraid of contact. He's unwilling. And when he's been challenged to do that, I think he's taken it to an extreme that was hazardous to his health. Like, I'm going to go prove how tough I am, and I'm going to run right at this linebacker.
Head down.
Even if there's a way I could cut and I'm really fast and run away, I'm not going to do that. And I'm not going to go out of bounds. I'm not going to do these things. So it's not, I don't think, a new development for him to be willing to sacrifice his body to help Ohio State. But when we've looked and thinking back to last year, like, why didn't Dallin Hayden get on the field? And we'd say, well, maybe he's not great at blitz pickup. Maybe he's not a good blocker. You have to earn some of that stuff. Like, Travion still had to be out there no matter what, because he was the most explosive running back that Ohio State had to offer. But I think he's now become the most complete version of himself. And Quinshon Judkins is doing this too. Travion's not alone. I really love the dynamic between the two of them, because I think they support each other and they celebrate each other's successes, but they also know that this guy is doing everything well. And if I want to be on the field, I better do everything well. And I think that there's a competitive rivalry, friendly rivalry, that is elevating both of them to levels that maybe I can't definitively say this about Quinshon, but I can about Travion. This is the best version that we've ever seen of him.
And it's a prime example for young athletes out there, honestly. If you find something that gives you real peace 6 days a week, you can go out the field on Saturday and be an absolute terror and let all of the anger and hatred that you have spill out of every pore in your body for those 3 hours on Saturday, and then immediately go back to being exceptionally humble and wholesome.
God-fearing man.
Travion is a much different person off the field than he's ever been, and he is a much different player on the field than he's ever been.
He's a monster right now, and it's not even when he's. I think
Find
he's
peace, people.
I think he is running more decisively and perhaps with better vision. I'm not in his shoes. I can't say that for sure, but I think he's running with better vision and better decisiveness and understanding of what he's being asked to do. Like, with the football in his hands, I think he's better, and he's unequivocally better when it's not.
I think it's an example of a guy who's healthy, and it's easier to run aggressive and confident if you're feeling physically right, because if you're trying to take care of an ankle or a hamstring or anything or a foot issue, you're probably not going as hard as you used to or want to. You're probably not being as aggressive with your cuts as you would like to be. You're probably going, okay, I don't want to run into this pile because there's a chance somebody can step on my foot. So I think it's a perfect combination.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a running back question while it's on my mind?
Yeah, I'm a world famous running back.
Well, it's a recruiting question, because we're going to see 3 very good running backs in this game. Caleb Johnson's from Hamilton, Ohio. Did Ohio State look at him at all?
No. I think they looked at him maybe more as a linebacker.
Really? Okay.
But I don't. He's not a name that was like.
Not that I think they should have him. He's from here, so I always wonder about that.
Yeah, no. James Peoples has more carries on the season than Travion.
I know, it's crazy.
Which is nuts.
Yeah. But I think it's awesome for Travion. Maybe he wants more carries, but this has always been to me about getting the absolute best version of Travion when you play Michigan and when you're in the playoff, because they haven't had that yet.
But also within a game, I don't think there's ever been a time where it's like, you know what?
Where's Travion been?
Travion's not making an impact on this game. And some of this is also tied in with a change in philosophy with RPO and reads and decisions. Like sometimes the football, maybe Chip Kelly thinks in the box, this is going to be Travion, and they see a different look. We got a real education on Tuesday from Ryan Day and Chip Kelly about game plans and different schemes and seeing things that you weren't expecting. Like, it's possible that they wanted Travion to have more carries at this point. He's certainly earned them, but the way that this offense is operating as a whole, you can't. I have not felt like, you know what, that's what they're not running enough. They need to use Travion more or Quinshon more. I have not felt that at any game so far.
No, me neither. And part of the reason that I think the run game just in general, and this is going to be a generic-ish stock buy, but
I know where he's going.
I think you got to buy stock in Justin Fry on the entire offensive line. Like, I mean,
no, you're not allowed.
It's Josh Simmons has been playing great football.
Yeah, he has.
Seth McLaughlin has been an absolute revelation. The steadiness we've seen out of Tegra Shabola, he's had, you know, a moment. He had we talked about on Tuesday, like a holding penalty against Michigan State. Who cares? Penalties happen sometimes. The improvement in Austin Sareveld, the development of Austin Sareveld, Josh Fryer, despite the fact that he's getting picked on a lot online, the Buckeyes didn't give up a sack last weekend. So I mean, it's hard to be too mad about an offensive line that had a running back averaging 10 yards a carry in Travion Henderson and didn't give up a sack. I mean, I don't know.
I just think you worry about the weak link, and I think Fryer has been the worst.
There's always a weak
line.
link, right? I mean, it doesn't matter. There's a weak link out of Jeremiah Smith and Ekabuka and Carnell Tate, right? Like
I suppose, yeah.
There's always a weak link.
Comparatively.
There's always a weak link. And yes, Josh Simmons.
Quite a sliding scale
I
there.
think Josh Simmons has been significantly better on the left than Josh Fryer has been on the right to this point. But I think that you can find a way to offer some help if you need to, especially Abdul Carter coming up in a month. And those,
just line Travion out there.
I mean, at this point, I just think Justin Fry has taken a lot of heat over the 2 years he's been here. But if this offensive line, which are now his guys that he's had time to actually develop, is a sign of where it could go. Now, obviously, there's going to be questions about recruiting and how does this class finish up for him in 2025. But it is a markedly different offensive line. And I don't know if it's Tim Drevno's influence or Chip Kelly's influence or just the brain trust all being together. Whatever it is, the offensive line is just way, way better. And I think Justin Fry deserves some credit where he doesn't get it.
I mean, counting Mike Soleni, that they have 3 coaches working on the offensive line who've all had that role in a full-time capacity at some point in their career. I've never seen that on any program or team that I've covered. I'd have to assume that that's pretty rare. Plus, Chip Kelly's influence, I think, is going to be significant there. If you weren't seeing results in Ohio State's offensive line, that would be the troubling part. That would be mystifying in ways because there's a huge investment being made in the coaching and development of that position.
It's paying off.
Yeah. I like offensive line generally, but I would like some Donovan Jackson stock, I think specifically. I think, and I don't think I'm alone in this opinion, like Donovan Jackson, given his recruiting pedigree, I think has been good, but probably not as consistently great or elite as people would hope he would be.
He looked like it the last 2 weeks.
His first 2 games this year, I think he's been awesome. You made a point on Tuesday that without him, Austin Sareveld did a nice job of making that absence feel not so noticeable, and I think that's true. But I also think it is noticeable now that Donovan is back in the lineup. Like you just kind of like feel him out there. He's moving people, and I think that the area where I really wanted to see him make some strides is in the run game and just playing with like better hands, like more consistent pad level. Like you look at the guy and like, yeah, that guy can probably move anybody, right? And I think he's doing that. This will be a test this week, right? The interior of the offensive line is going to get stressed against Iowa,
especially for Donovan, who's like probably got.
Well, that's the other thing too. Yeah, it's a little bit of a redemption moment, I guess, for him. And I honestly I bet that Iowa tries to do the same thing to see whether or not Justin Fry and Donovan Jackson learn from that experience. So I'm interested to watch that too. But I just think he's played really well. And the nature of offensive line play oftentimes is that like when a guy is playing well, you just sort of don't talk about him. But I thought it was worth pointing out how well he's playing, given some of the criticisms he's received, which I do think have been mostly fair, but I do believe he's taken his game to another level.
The best players on the offensive line have played really well. Josh Simmons and Donovan Jackson and Seth McLaughlin.
Yep. Which I think that's naturally is to bring up your weak link conversation, Vern. It's like
That's
the right
60%.
side.
Yeah.
The right side is going to not look as good compared to the left. That's simple.
You
as
have two veterans, and you have two guys who are, Josh Fryer's played a lot of football, but he's still the guy next to a new guy in Degler Shabola, and it's going to happen. There's going to be weak links. There's always the worst swimmer.
I'm a bad swimmer. Yeah,
that's true. I don't like swimming at all. So,
do you know how to swim?
I do, but I
always think it's odd when adults don't know how to swim,
Yeah.
unless it's born out of like a crippling fear of being in the water. But like if you're cool with going in the water and you don't know how to swim, that feels like a necessary life skill.
I'm not afraid.
Like if you don't know how to ride a bike or swim as an adult, like something went wrong, right?
Yeah,
I didn't learn how to ride a bike until I was 14, and I only learned because my younger sister, who's 11, she went out one weekend. She's like, I'm going to learn how to ride a bike. And I was like, I don't care about riding a bike. And that weekend I was like, she's learning? I'm going to learn. So I went out and it took me like 20 minutes. I was like, I got it. And she was still outside crying because I learned first.
Wow.
And I was like, I'm sorry, you're slow, Julie. You're bad.
Ooh, stock down on Julie's bike riding skills.
I mean, I'm sure she's fine at it
Burns.
now. I don't know. I don't know if she's ever rode one since that weekend.
Let's see. You scarred her for life.
Let's see a competition.
She can ride a motorcycle, though.
Well, then I bet she can ride a bike.
Yeah. I'm afraid to do that. Yeah, I wouldn't do that.
I'd like to learn. I just am terrified.
If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
It's true. Do you buy stock in? Or what are you buying stock in?
Motorcycles?
A concept.
Okay. I like it.
Ryan Day as revitalized, aggressive head coach.
Mm-hmm.
I've made this point before, but now we actually have some data points to point to that suggest, hey, maybe this is real. And I know that a decision to go for it on fourth down is not necessarily always a gamble. It could be, analytics driven, and it sounds like a lot of times it is. It could also be a reflection of confidence in the defense. So it might be an oversimplification to just say, hey, Ryan Day's more aggressive because Ohio State has gone for more fourth down attempts than anyone else in the Big Ten, which they have. Gone for 8. They've converted 6 of them. They went for 4 of them on the road against a Big Ten opponent on Saturday night. 3 of them were of consequence, and all 3 of them worked. And the other was a Julian Satan throw with a couple ticks left in the game that was probably unnecessary, but still pretty aggressive. I think the way Ohio State is managing reps with the backups is more aggressive than it has been. And there are also a lot of explanations for why that could be. It's not just because Ryan Day pushed a button in his mind or in his desk and he's like, guess what? Aggressive Day's back.
That button's to activate Caleb.
That's the activation button. I think it would be an oversimplification to say that it's just this one thing or that thing, but I feel holistically like the 2019-ish version of Ryan Day has returned. I think it bodes very well for Ohio State.
I just like that he's coaching whistle to whistle and from the start of the game to the very end of the game. And we've seen it multiple times throughout the season. But that fourth down play with Julian saying is a prime example of one that in previous years, last couple of years, it's 4th and 1, you're at the 50, the game's over, and maybe Julian Sain takes a deep shot that he shouldn't take because there's other guys open to keep the ball and end the game. And I don't think in the past years Ryan Day would have coached that point on the field immediately like he did on Saturday.
I think you're right. Do you guys think the way he's talked about this team feels different to me? Like he has several times said I love this team, I love the way this team plays. I think it was part of the answer to the question you asked him about I felt like that was his explanation for being more aggressive is because these guys play hard and I want to reward that by also coaching with a little bit more of an edge. And it's not to say that he hasn't liked previous teams. I'm sure he's liked every team he's coached for one reason or another, but I don't know that I've ever actually heard him voice it as much as he has voiced it this year.
These guys came back for a reason.
Yeah.
And if he wasn't being that coach, I think it would be doing a disservice to their entire reason for being here.
And I understand that it's an uncomfortable, weird position to put him in a question like that. It's probably hard for him to answer if he truly feels different, because I bet a year ago he didn't feel like he was doing, giving less than 100% of his effort or attention to Ohio State, or that he's ever been cutting quarters.
But
or
the
been
attention
complacent.
had to be put somewhere else. So you can give 100%, but it's still diverted in a way that now it doesn't need to be, or you can focus on the bigger pictures. And that again, Bill O'Brien was a home run hire when it happened, and then Chip Kelly's a grand slam. He has changed everything that Ryan Day is able to do, and I don't think that we can talk about that enough.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Gabe Powers, who
That's a good one.
I'll be honest with you, America. A year ago, I wasn't sure that Gabe Powers had a spot on this team in the future, and especially not at linebacker. I thought maybe if there's a chance outgrows it and turns into a defensive end. But man, every time Gabe Powers is on the field, he is hitting people and doing things that you're like, oh, Gabe Powers. How about that? Oh, Gabe Powers. And I don't know that this is the season where we'll see him elevate into like must play the way Arvell Reese has so far. But there's a spot in this defense in the future for Gabe Powers. And I guess I'm buying the stock more of as a way to make an admission that I probably wrote him off too early because I really like what I've seen out of Gabe Powers.
He's been good. That it was this game, right, where he like leveled that, like caught that guy in the air and drove him into the ground. Like, oh, okay, that's pretty good, Gabe.
Gabe Powers.
oh,
Is
Gabe
that-
Powers.
I was uncertain that he would even play linebacker here. Like I kind of thought he might move up front at some point.
I thought that was his only chance of playing it.
Yeah, but he looks pretty good.
Oh,
We've always come away, maybe not always. We have recently, throughout spring and in through training camp, it was the middle of August. I said, oh, saw some stuff from Gabe Powers. I'm going to buy on that.
Oh, Gabe Powers.
Gabe Powers.
Oh.
Gabe Powers. And I bought some stock. And then it was like right at the same time where the rocket exploded for Arvell Reese. So it goes back to a point that we made about other guys like Tegra Chabot and Austin Saraveld. It's not that Gabe Powers was not continuing to develop or that Gabe Powers was doing something wrong. It's that Arvell Reese was going to a whole nother level that was hard to have projected. If that had not happened and some of those reps were going to Gabe Powers, I think we probably would be feeling pretty good about him and saying he needs to play more or could play more or is going to be a fixture in the lineup next year. The opportunity is not quite the same through no fault of his own.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Gabe Powers.
Gabe Powers.
So I got one more.
You
One of
don't.
us.
You can pass.
Or you can be done if you want.
No, I'll do one more. This is
He'll do one.
this is more of it's a speculative play on something that I'm not even certain will happen. But in case it does, I'd like to be in on the ground floor a little bit. And we're not really on the ground floor because this guy has had people talking about him for a couple of years.
First floor.
We're on the first floor.
Second floor. Men's bag.
of Jermaine Matthews Enterprises.
Ooh.
I love Jermaine Matthews on the field.
He is the guy they put out on the field when they do go to like a true dime look. So he's playing a little more in that way. But I am wondering if, as the season goes along, he might get worked in a little more on the outside on a rotational basis with Davis and Igbinosun especially. It's the idea you talked about a little bit in the offseason. I don't
a lot of it.
A lot of it. I don't think Davison's been bad by any stretch. I think maybe he's kind of the same as last year, and maybe there hasn't been like a real noticeable leap. And if that's the case, I just think that door is slightly ajar for Jermaine Matthews to keep pushing for some playing time. So if we're like 2 or 3 weeks down the road here, I think it's possible that we see a little more rotation at corner than we've seen so far.
This is something that I would like to just ask Tim Walton whenever we talk to him next, but what is the fundamental difference in responsibility for a guy playing the boundary versus a guy playing the field? Because when we see Jermaine Matthews coming into the game at the back half of the third and fourth quarter, he's been going to the boundary side, and it's been Aaron Scott going in for Davis and Igbinosun. And I just wonder if there's something about – because Jermaine certainly long. He's not as tall as Davison or Aaron are, so I'm wondering if there's a physical thing they're looking for out of that spot. And maybe that's what's keeping them from doing more rotation because Jermaine's working exclusively at the boundary. And I don't know if there's really – or what the fundamental difference is there.
It's an excellent point to make that I hadn't thought of.
It's a good question because I feel like the Jermaine Matthews that's going in the game was the one that I anticipated seeing. And I'm not trying to be overly critical of 3 or 4 plays or 1 or 2 penalties. But I have not felt like Davison Igbinosun has made the kind of impact that when I backed off some of the Jermaine Matthews talk in August, it was because we were seeing Davison in one-on-one against Jeremiah Smith right in front of our face and winning these reps. And I haven't felt that in 4 games. And it is not, I'm not jumping off of any bandwagon or onto another that I wasn't already on or whatever. I don't think that he has played to his maximum ability yet. And when Jim Knowles was talking on Tuesday about maybe needing to play more press and getting more aggressive, like I don't know. I'm just not sure if that's playing to Davison's strengths.
I don't know if
compared to
can
Jermaine
be
Matthews.
more aggressive than Davison
Well,
Igbinosun.
that's true as well.
He's super aggressive at the catch point, but I think press man is probably not his strength. Right?
Yeah.
That's why he plays off so much.
But again, there's a weakest link, right? And
Yeah.
so
the links are still good.
He's getting picked on a bit because A, you've got 30 yards of field over there. B, Denzel Burke's on the other side. So like, I just, it's hard to know how much of it is, oh, Davison's not living up to the expectation versus, oh, this is just where they have to throw the ball.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because Denzel's like baiting people into trying things.
He wants them to throw.
Yeah.
I think it's also where Ohio State wants you to throw the ball too, right? Like and Davison's a really good tackler. So like they trust that, like, we might give up 6 yards, but it's only going to be 6 yards.
Yeah. It's good.
You have another one? I wanted to also,
I'm out.
while I haven't been here for 4 weeks on the stock watch, I'm going to throw in all my chips. Another player that I did not think or did not know really where his opening was going to be at Ohio State, who I now firmly believe is not only good enough to play here, but is someone who next year, when Jordan Hancock is gone, Lorenzo Styles is good in the slot. Like he is physical. He reads plays very well. He's super quick, twitched up. Like, that is not something I would have had on my bingo card, being like, I'm sold on Lorenzo Styles as a slot corner.
Football player, that guy. He's really good on special teams too.
I think he's built for that. I don't think you would ask him to go out and be a field or boundary corner and go win one-on-one matchups, but
Gotta know your role.
I think he's got the potential to be like a more athletic version of Tanner McAllister.
Yes.
Who's playing in the NFL?
Exactly right. That's exactly
Wow.
right.
Yes.
As a guy who just
Got it.
single-handedly beat Aaron Rodgers on Sunday.
Is that right?
By himself.
Good for him. 1 versus 11. Or one-on-one, I suppose. If it was just him and Aaron Rodgers out there, I guess you would take Tanner McAllister every time.
Basketball.
Aaron Rodgers was on psychedelics at the time, so
They were playing basketball.
Yeah.
I guess the last one would just be Caden McDonald. You should all be invested in him, America. He's very good.
You should invest in the podcast and invest your time in watching us.
How can they do that?
By going to the podcast on YouTube, the podcast Ohio State. If you're already watching it here,
Yeah,
but it's a Woody Wednesday,
it is.
so we're wrapping up this episode of the Stock Watch. These guys will be back in here
Shortly.
for snap judgments on Wednesday night. We don't know who we're talking to, but maybe you guys can figure out the answer to the
I'll
boundary.
talk to Ryan Day.
Maybe you can figure out the answer to the boundary and field corner stuff, because the Jermaine Mathis thing has been on my mind for that reason, because he's every time he's out there, he's playing where Denzel was. So I'm just like, oh, I didn't think that was a big deal, but maybe it is.
We'll find out. And as Berm said, we'll be back later on for Snap Judgments. We have a weekend kickoff at the Fairway Columbus, brought to you by Bryant Heating and Cooling Systems on Thursday night at 7. Mike Bennett and Zach Bourne will be there. You don't want to miss it. We'll be there too, but we're just complimentary pieces to those former Buckeyes. And lots of Kings of the North and Kings of Columbus continuing to come your way ahead of Ohio State against Iowa Saturday, 3:30 on CBS. Thanks for joining us for a Stock Watch on a Woody Wednesday podcast daily. It's got a lot of titles. Thank you for watching. He's Bill Landis. That's Jeremy Birmingham. I'm Austin Ward. See ya.